Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Sports Exchange. My name is Scott Morganroth, and yes, we are live, the Motor City Madmouth, and I am pleased to announce a brand new era here. And you know what? I love doing these broadcasts live, and it reminds me of my days back in radio. And I couldn't think of a better crew to have than what I have right now. I have John Shearer. Welcome, John. He's going to be helping get through a lot of this, which already seems like it's pretty easy. Rick Curti and Steve Balestrieri. Welcome, guys.
I should be on the program. I'm glad.
Well, you know what? I'm telling you what. Okay, this is something that I've really wanted to do for a long time, and I look forward to working with it a lot more as the situation goes on. And tonight's episode is going to focus on John Madden's legacy. John Madden died on December 28th, 2021 at the age of 85. And, you know, when you talk about John Madden, okay, we're talking about a guy who had a coaching record of 103, 32, and 7 with a 750 regular season mark and an overall mark of 112, 39, and 7, 731. And, you know, I'll never forget as a kid watching him, okay, win his Super Bowl when he beat the Minnesota Vikings 32-14 on January 9th, 1977 at the Rose Bowl. And when I talk about the Rose Bowl, that's when the stadium held 103,438, and he retired at the age of 42, and he still has the most wins in Raiders history. So we'll uncover a lot more with John Madden a little bit later. But Steve, well, I guess anybody's old enough to appreciate John Madden, it's you.
Oh, absolutely. Growing up, I mean, when I first started watching football, he was the coach of the Raiders. You know, I remember seeing the Raiders at Fenway Park in Boston. It tells you how old I am. And, you know, he was such a great coach. Then he turned into a great commentator on television. And now, the game that all the kids play, and even a lot of the adults, Madden, I mean, it's everything. And, I mean, he's the guy that made turducken famous. So I remember at the time I thought it was fake when they were talking about that. Turns out a turkey inside a duck, or a chicken inside a duck inside a turkey. So who knew? John Madden was famous in lots of realms.
He sure was. Well, you know, the nice part about talking about John Madden, it's one of those types of things that relates to generations, not just strictly football fans, right, Rick Curti?
Exactly. I never saw John Madden coach, but I remember him with his announcing. One of the best announcers ever, been around forever. And, of course, the video games, the new generation remember him because of the Madden and the Madden ratings. And, of course, you got the turducken and all that great stuff. So, I mean, it's amazing what he accomplished at such a early age. You know, he retired at 42 years old as a head coach and then went into broadcasting and is like one of the most recognizable faces, names, voices ever. So his legacy will live on forever, and he'll definitely live on with the video games.
Well, John?
Yeah, so I think when he retired, I don't know if he still has it, but when he retired, he had the highest winning percentage of any coach in NFL history. I don't know if he still has the highest winning percentage. I think he might still have it out of any coach ever. Don Shula, Bill Belichick, anybody. I think he might still have it, but at least when he retired, he did. So that shows you how impressive of a coach he was. And it's not just the accomplishments he had, but the teacher that he was. I mean, he was such a great teacher to his guys, and just the game of football, like in general, he revolutionized the game without even trying it. I mean, he was that important. He didn't just win a championship for the Raiders. He wasn't just Super Bowl winning head coach. Like, he transcended the game. Like, the way he taught was revolutionary. This was something we never really saw before. And then not to mention, the commentating. I mean, he did the same thing when he commentated. Then he changed the sports landscape for video games forever. There's video games, more so the beginning of the Madden franchise. It kind of got away from him towards the end of the franchise, towards like where we're at now. It wasn't really him. You could see that it shifted after a while, but he transcended video games, commentating, coaching and the game of football. He did all of that, and that's just who John Madden was he just was a larger than life character.
Yeah, without a doubt. Let me talk about some of the broadcast partners. Think about John Madden. Okay, he worked for all 4 major networks: CBS, Fox, ABC, and NBC. And some of the guys he's paired with, and Steve and I, we can remember some of the legendary calls. But when you talk about before Pat Summerall, that is, by the way, excuse me, he worked with Vince Scully, Dick Stockton, Frank Lieber, who most people don't know about, but I remember Frank was a great announcer. And then Gary Bender. And of course, he worked with Pat Summerall for 8 Super Bowls. And obviously, he worked with Al Michaels at ABC and, of course, NBC. And I'll never forget when John Madden called his final game on February 1st, 2009, was Super Bowl 43, Pittsburgh against Arizona. And by the way, fellas, I was at that game over at Raymond James Stadium. So you talk about a great last act. We're not even going to get into that game. But to think that, everybody seems their last games, of course, at Super Bowls. And that was a dynamite game. If everybody knows that game, realize that Ben Roethlisberger to Santonio Holmes and James Harrison, that 100-yard unbelievable run. But we'll even take it a little bit further, okay? And I want to talk about what John just said moments ago. You talk about the all-man team, the man cruiser, because he wouldn't fly, and I'll get into some stories there. But you know what I like about John Madden? He came up with the Madden Cruiser, and you know what I call my vehicles? The Bull Cruiser. And for people that know what I'm like on the road, the way I can go many, many hours in a row, I do tend to have a lead foot in some places that people are going a little slow. I shouldn't really be admitting that live, but as long as I'm concerned, as long as I didn't get violated at the time, it doesn't matter. But every vehicle I drive is a Bull Cruiser. Okay, and John Madden had the Madden Cruiser. And of course, we know about the commercials. I think some of the favorite ones that I recollect are the Outback Steakhouse. And of course, we all know about the Miller Lite commercials. And of course, as Johnny alluded to, okay, the video game. So, Steve, go ahead.
Well, it's funny because I think I talked to you offline about this. When you talk about John Madden and his legacy, but he was really a down-to-earth guy. And that documentary where they showed, him interacting with people out on the road and just average everyday people. My older brother and all of the guys he worked with, they used to go to Patriots games and tailgate, and they had a whole section. Well, this one Sunday, they were playing the Packers in Green Bay, and the Madden Cruiser pulled in to Foxborough Stadium right near where my brother and all of his friends were tailgating, and Madden came out, so they called over to him, and he came over and sat down, and he was eating food, talking football with these guys like he's known them all their lives. And then he kept looking at my brother. I'm not getting this on my shirt, am I? Because I got to go on the air in this shirt. So, and they were all laughing because he's like, hey, this is really good stuff here, So then as it was getting close to game time, the staffers from, I think he was working for NBC at that point. They said, John, we got to get inside. So he's like, hey, guys, the next time we come here, I'm definitely going to try to park in the same spot because you guys got it going on. And I always remember my brother always talked about that as he was so down to earth. And the guy you saw on TV was the exact same guy in real life. He wasn't putting on airs. He was just that guy. And that's who he was. And that's one of the things that I really took away from, he was a down to earth guy. He even taught a class in college. It was mainly geared toward women, but guys signed up for it too, how to watch football on television. And, he talked about earlier, as a teacher, and he also taught college kids how to appreciate the game of, the NFL. And I just think his legacy is he transcends football. I think, across time zones, errors, whatever you want to say, he was just, part of the American fabric. I mean, we got used to seeing him every week on television, and he was at all the biggest games, it seemed, every year.
Well, amazingly enough, everybody knows that he was a magician with the telestrator. He knew how to simplify the game for somebody that didn't know what the game was all about. He'd break it down. You talk about keep it simple, stupid. He certainly did it to the average viewer. And I know, John, you can definitely appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean Tony Romo does a good job of doing that today. That's the closest I can see that that would be like that, where they make it easy to understand the people. I mean, we all understand the game of football when we watch it. We all understand what Romo's saying, but there's other people there's more casual fans that don't quite understand. But Romo does a good job, and Madden did a good job, really making you feel like, not making you feel stupid, but really teaching you, and that helps because casual fans are that's the point where they're either going to turn away or they're going to keep watching. And if you make it easy for them and you make them not feel dumb, like, they're more likely to stick around, and that's good for the game. That's what you want, is you want fans to be genuinely interested. So guys like that can help, take the time during a live broadcast to teach you. I mean, there's something to be said for that.
Well, a long time ago, I bought a book that he had titled, "Hey, I wrote a book," and I think it's in paperback. I don't know where it's at, but I remember looking at it and knowing that he was jumping through someplace and talking raving about doing it. I think he had a typewriter, if I remember right. I have to look for it. But when you talk about making a very difficult project look easy in the manner that he did, Rick Curti, there's no question that his animation of making difficult tasks look a lot simple, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. I remember watching when I would watch football for the first time, and John Madden would be on there, and I didn't really understand the game. I didn't understand the terminology. I didn't understand any of that stuff, and he would break it down so easily with his plays, and always with his little magic marker there, and circling things here and circling things there, and what goes here and what goes there, and then you're kind of like, oh, okay, I see what he's talking about. So he like you said, he simplified it, he made it easier, and as the years gone on, I've now understand more of the game now with the plays and the terminology and what goes on, and that's all because of John Madden. People enjoyed watching him. They loved him in his commercials. He was just a larger than life personality, and I'm not surprised stories that I hear about him, that he was just a really laid back guy where you can just bump into him and talk to him, and he's like your best friend. So I think that's why so many people love him so much. Even my mom knows who John Madden is, and she's not even a football fan at all. She doesn't even understand the game. So I think when you can cross people like that, who are the non-football fans, I think that says a lot about you.
Okay, so I'm going to ask each of you a question. Was there any particular commercial that you liked the best?
Like or remember?
Well, I don't know.
The Tough Actin' Tinactin commercial probably stuck with me more than any.
I like the Miller Lite commercials.
Yeah, me too. I'm with the Miller Lite. But you know what? I could probably use a little Tinactin right now. But I'm with you. I mean, but yeah, no, I'm with you, Steve. Us old geezers here like the Miller Lite ones because remember. And I think what's so fun about talking about John Madden with all of us is age ranges are a little bit different amongst all of us. And you talk about a generational type of thing. That's what you ended up looking. I was never into the video games. I wasn't that smart enough. The only video games I remember years ago were Atari when I played them, or I took those little handheld ones that you could play, whether it's Tetris or that little football game. But I was never into the Madden games. But I know full well now he is at the All Madden team, and you name it, he's taking his marketing things to levels that are incomprehensible for sure. So Rick,
he still wore that silly sideline pass that nobody wears. It's like somebody wouldn't know who John Madden is. Bill Belichick mentioned that on the documentary, and John would always wear that silly NFL issued sideline pass, like no one knew who John Madden was. And they showed clips from all the games, and he'd have it on his belt, and it's all flopping around there.
All right, let's talk about his aversion to flying. And it was interesting as I was preparing for the broadcast tonight. I was always wondering about it. And well, the reason why he became this way is he lost people close to him on October 29th, 1960, when Cal Polytech State football plane crash claimed 16 people. But actually, that wasn't what turned him off with flying. What ended up happening was in 1979, he had his first panic attack on a flight that originated in Tampa, and he never flew again. And as a result, because of that situation, you got the Greyhound lines supplied him with a Madden bus, and we all know it turned out to be the Madden Cruiser. And he never called a game, believe it or not, in the Pro Bowl or outside of North America. And so whether it's preseason games or what, once he decided to make a decision, I'm not flying. Forget London and forget Hawaii, and those are places most of us will want to go. So, what are your thoughts, Steve, about that?
Well, as somebody who's crashed in an aircraft, yeah, I certainly can sympathize with his feelings there. So, yeah, I mean, it's there's an aversion to flying that I totally get that. I mean, I don't like to fly anymore myself. I still do all the time, but I don't like to. So,
What about you, John? What about you, John?
I can only imagine how long the trips to these games must have taken compared to flying, which is a lot quicker. Riding in a bus, I can't imagine like how early he must have had to have left. Whether it be on a Thursday or a Wednesday, or it's a lot earlier than flying out on a Friday, to go to Green Bay or whatever. So just thinking about that is like, man, he spent a lot more time on the road than he had to because he was in a bus as opposed to in an airplane or a jet or whatever.
Yeah, I used to see pictures of little buses. If I'm going to go out there and go in one of those buses there with all the little bells and whistles, Rick Curti, then I guess I don't mind driving all over the country either. Would you?
No, I love to travel. It's fun, and I've actually taken a Greyhound cross country. It's fun. You go to all these different states and stop everywhere. So I can understand why he did that. I don't like to fly either. I hate flying. I recently flew during the summertime when I went to Los Angeles for a couple of weeks, and it was the first time I flew in a long time, and I don't like it at all. So I can understand why he didn't fly. But what's amazing is that that he was always there at the games, no matter what. Whether he flew or he didn't fly or at all. I think just to get around that cruiser he did, that would take longer. You think he'd miss a game here and there, but he never did. He was always there, and I think that's just the magic of John Madden, is that he did things differently. He did things his way, but it always worked out, and he was always one of the most reliable. And like you said, he worked at every 4 major networks. So he's truly an amazing person, and so but I'm like with the rest. I really don't like flying at all.
Well, let me tell you this. The only time I really took a Greyhound bus after an initial trip from Daytona to Fort Lauderdale was when I went from Fort Lauderdale, Hollywood area all the way to New Orleans. And I was going there for the NCAA Final Four in 1982 with Michael Jordan when North Carolina won it all. Now, that was a great trip to New Orleans. Went there with a good friend of mine. And I knew what a Pat O'Brien's Hurricane was. I knew what I knew what Georgetown and North Carolina was like, and it was a great Final Four, one of the greatest Final Fours ever, but it took a full day. So if I'm going to go ahead and go anywhere, people that know who I really am will tell you that I'll drive all over the country. Now, because of COVID-19, I've been very hesitant to fly nowadays because I'm not comfortable. I don't know what I'm going to run across. And I've always liked to drive because I have more control over my destiny. I don't have to worry about security checks, luggage, and so forth. So I can appreciate where you're coming from. And as long as you have a nice cushy thing like he did, more power to him. So let's talk about some of his awards a little bit. We all know about what he did with the Super Bowl, but he was a 12-time Emmy Award winner. 1984, he was voted National Sports Media Association Sportscaster of the Year. And I happen to belong to NSMA. I'm a member, and a proud one, I should say. Yahoo, he was regarded as one of the top 50 all-time network TV sports announcers. And in 2002, he won the Pete Rozelle Radio TV Award winner. If that wasn't enough, let's add a few Hall of Fames to the whole thing. He's in the Bay Area Sports Hall of Fame in 1991. Should be of no surprise there. The Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2006, the California Hall of Fame in 2009, and back to NSMA 2010, NSMA Hall of Fame in 2010. So, when you think about the fact that not only was he a great coach, and we talked about a great announcer, to be able to pair broadcasting like he did with being a great coach, that to me is impressive when you look at the amount of Hall of Fames and the awards that he ended up winning, Steve.
Well, it's funny because I don't know what took the NFL so long to put him in the NFL Hall of Fame. I mean, we've talked about this on the show already. I mean, he had a Hall of Fame coaching career, and nobody promoted the game better than he did for so many years on television. And it took him until 2006 to get him in Canton. I don't know, that kind of always threw me. It was like, why isn't John Madden in the Hall of Fame when some of the other guys in different categories you'd look at and say, but this guy's in the Hall of Fame and John Madden isn't? I don't know. I thought that was very strange considering how much he meant to the league, and they didn't seem fit to put him in the hall in Canton. I just didn't get that.
Yeah, I'm kind of blown away by that. What do you think, John?
Yeah, I mean, not only did he have a Hall of Fame career, but his speech was pretty Hall of Fame worthy too. I mean, if you watch that speech that he had, I've listened to a lot of NFL Pro Football Hall of Fame speeches, and that was one of the best, most genuine speeches I think I've ever heard from anybody up there on stage. So, I mean, everything he did, he did with class. I mean, everything he did was just gold. Everything he touched was gold. That was just, that was John Madden. I mean, what else can I say about the guy? The speech really touches me. When I go back and listen to it, I mean, you'll hear a lot of those speeches that are genuine, but you go back and listen to his, and it's just, I mean, it touches your soul, man. Like, it's one of those speeches you don't forget.
Rick?
Yeah, I mean, he should have gone in way before. He should have gone in a couple of times as a broadcaster, as a coach. And why it took that long, who knows? I mean, that's just how things work out. Sometimes people get in later, and there's some people that get in that are probably like, really? He's a Hall of Famer? But to me, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer multiple times as a head coach and as a broadcaster. He's one of the great legends, and he's just an amazing person.
It's funny. When I think of the Madden Cruiser, nowadays, you know what it really reminds me of? When College Game Day does that thing with their big bus there, we are coming to your city, and they have all their sponsors on top of that. And, I like to joke around with my wife that we come into your city. Oh, I had to get that one up there, guys. We are coming to your city. Got to get that up there twice. And the reason why I do that is because I like to drive all over the place anyways. And, but amazingly enough, the Madden Cruiser paved the way for the College Game Day bus that everybody travels it all over the country, and it's a very identifiable thing on the road.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I never really thought of that, but I'm sure they took inspiration and a little bit of creative license from John Madden with that, and never really thought about that. But yeah, College Football Game Day, that's their big bus, They pull into town. I never really considered that at the time.
Well, think about it. You get some good sponsor behind there. Who knows what you could do with these buses nowadays? I don't know if they have bathrooms in there, and I'm sure they probably do if they go all over the place, but I don't think they care about the gas mileage these days. As long as you got every amenity on the planet, who cares? But I certainly like to go in one of them these days. But I'm okay with my vehicles. It's okay. But you think about the Madden Cruiser. and what it's done for traveling all over the place to create these buses, it blows you away, right, John Shearer?
Yeah. I mean, I'm curious what they actually did with the Madden Cruiser. Like once he passed away, I'm curious. Like, is it just sitting? Is it with his family? Like, what did they ever do with something that legendary? Makes you think like, where is it now? So I don't know. That's just what I think is like, what do you do with something like that? Does that just sit in your yard? Like if you're one of his family members, like what happens to the Madden Cruiser?
Yeah,
That's a good trivia question right there.
Yeah.
What
It should
did
be in
happen
the
to the Madden
Smithsonian
Cruiser?
or in the NFL Hall of Fame.
It's a little big for the Hall of Fame.
Why not? Put in a little section by his own little section and said, "This is the official John Madden Cruiser. The man drove everywhere with us."
Yeah, well, John, you've been in the Hall of Fame. I haven't been there yet.
It's a little bit big. It's a little bit bigger than could fit in there. They have a lot of stuff in there. It's heaven in there.
Well, I'm hoping to take my first crack at it later on this summer.
They have every Super Bowl ring from every Super Bowl. Well, for me, it was all 55 when I went there last year, in a case, all authentic, 55 different Super Bowl rings, which is pretty. I mean, there's something literally for everybody. It's not to go off on that thing, but every football fan should visit there at least once.
Many years ago, I went ahead and saw the Hockey Hall of Fame near Exhibition Place. I think they moved it downtown, so I didn't see that one. I saw the Basketball Hall of Fame in Springfield. They moved that around, and I don't care what anybody says. Although I can't say anything about the Pro Football Hall of Fame as of yet. But there is no place like Cooperstown, folks. I don't care what anybody says.
Wait until you visit that museum. You might change your mind. Without fans, it takes a while to get through because there's so much. They have this like Hall of Fame movie theater. It's like, I don't know. I don't want to ruin it for you, but once you go through it, we'll have to go a day early. Because once you go the second day, everybody's in there and you literally can't get through the thing in a day. That's how many fans are in there. But if you go a day early like I did, there's nobody in there. You could just walk around all you want. You and I will have to do that so that way you can experience
that's one of the things that's on our to-do list, John. We've already talked about it off camera here, that it is on the to-do list. A couple other points I want to address here tonight. Number one, obviously, the folks of Oakland had a memorial service on Valentine's Day. I believe it attracted around 2,000 people over at the Oakland Coliseum. I ended up getting the press release from NFL Communications. So it was good that Oakland had its own tribute to him as well. Why not? He was iconic in the area, and he's obviously the best coach ever in Raiders history. Any thoughts?
And the comment by his wife was pretty good, where she said, Oakland needs a football team.
Well, keep them.
They had it.
You keep it.
Yeah, we don't see Rick.
Lost it.
They keep them. That's that's the city's fault. They lost their basketball team too, and they're probably going to lose their baseball team. So, go talk to the city. Go talk to the city council. They're the ones causing it.
Yeah, they decided not to upgrade that dump of a stadium. So
I've actually been to that stadium. Steve, have you ever been to the Oakland Coliseum before?
I have, and it's almost as big as a hole as the Patriots' old stadium was.
Yeah, I was actually there covering the Detroit Lions game, and I got to tell you, the first time I went in the Oakland Coliseum, it was a pretty intimidating place with all those black and it was like no other. That's for sure. I think when you walk in there,
dress up like I don't know, like some out of Road Warrior, with Raiders jerseys on. Well, it's pretty impressive. So
yeah, impressive, intimidating, however you want to say.
But it's a dump. The Coliseum is a dump.
Well, we know the Coliseum's a dump. Is when you're around those people dressed up in those outfits that make you a little bit nervous.
Well, I mean, it's been documented, I think, by MLB players that there's sewage and rats running around in the dugouts during games and things like that. I think it's been documented, those type of things, visiting teams have experienced that in their dugouts. So it literally is a dump.
Well, I talked about one place that I was with Madden for Super Bowl 43, but how can we ever forget about the Thanksgiving games that he took a lot of pride covering, both with CBS and Fox? I mean, here's a guy, okay, that talked about the galloping gobbler and used to carve up that turkey and did some unbelievable things with it. So, I mean, come on, John Madden only had two places to go, really, mainly Dallas and Detroit on alternate years. And not like he didn't have the history. And back then, the Lions won some of those games. Lately, not so much. So, but how did you like seeing him on Thanksgiving? Do you feel like John? That to me, Thanksgiving was special when John Madden was calling football games.
Oh, absolutely. You knew it was a big game if John and Pat Summerall were there.
Yeah. What about you guys, Rick, John?
Yeah, I mean, he's a staple of Thanksgiving. That's pretty much the only reason I watched it, because some of the teams, no offense, Scott, but the Lions would play and didn't really want to see him on Thanksgiving. And I'm not a Cowboy fan. And literally, I watched the game because of John Madden, because I wanted to hear him and that turducken thing and all that stuff. So I mean, that's what made football on Thanksgiving special, was just to hear John Madden play, just to hear John Madden.
To me, football on Thanksgiving is always special. To me, it doesn't matter if it's John Madden or whoever. It's it's a tradition. It's a football tradition that for football fans, non-football fans, it's a tradition. And regardless of who's on TV, I hope it always stays the Lions and Cowboys, because that's part of, that's what I grew up with, is those two teams specifically playing on Thanksgiving. So I hope that never changes. But, it's just every year, regardless of who the commentators are, it's Lions and Cowboys. And I'm not a fan of either of those teams, but I always look forward to it because that's what I grew up with.
Well, let me tell you this. I remember a long time ago when the Kansas City Chiefs, the Hunts, didn't want the Lions to have it. And I remember when I was covering the Arizona Cardinals at the time, I went to 3 games. And one of those games happened to be with the Dallas Cowboys. Well, everybody knows that Jerry Jones will talk to anybody in his sight, and he loves talking. But here I am over at Sun Devil Stadium, because that was before the new place was built. And I talked to Jerry Jones about it. I said, well, what do you think, Jerry? You think the Lions should ever lose the Thanksgiving game? And he says, Scott, let me tell you something. As long as I'm around here, the Detroit Lions are never going to lose that Thanksgiving game. So what do you think ultimately happened? They created a primetime version. And Jerry Jones is a colorful cat. He really is. I'm not going to talk about the success on the field after Jimmy Johnson. That's another animal for another day. But he made sure, and we all know full well that he was a driving force behind the Rams getting that Super Bowl in LA and building that new stadium. But all I can tell you is the powerful influence that Jerry Jones has the NFL goes unmatched. But he had told me there's no way in any way, shape, or form that I was going to go out there and see the Lions lose their game. Of course, we all know the Cowboys aren't going to lose it either. But yeah, to me, I've covered a lot of Thanksgiving games and love them. I'd love to be able to cover one in Dallas, but being a Metro Detroiter, that's the one time we used to look forward to every year. And Metro Detroit, if you've ever gone out there and seen a Thanksgiving Day parade, on Woodward Avenue, that's great. But when you go to a Lions game, and I went to another Pontiac Silverdome, I used to get to those games at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I used to be done probably like 5 or 6, because it was a work day for me. Well, everybody did their own thing. I'm not going to get into all my horrific turkey cooking stories, although maybe I will once when a friend of mine out in Kansas City and I broiled a turkey, could have shot baskets of that stupid bird. But we were just soliciting opinions how to do it. But with all due respect, yeah, John Madden, the way he did the turkey thing was unbelievable. So, guys, I mean, I don't think there's any better way to have our first show here live than to talk about an iconic person like John Madden. So with that said, okay, Rick Curti, why don't you let everybody know how they can get a hold of you?
You can contact me on my website at www.charlottebats.com. My email is cltbatsbaseball@gmail.com. I'm also on Facebook at Charlotte MLB and Charlotte Bats Baseball. I'm also on Instagram at Charlotte Bats, Twitter at Charlotte Bats Baseball, and I'm also on LinkedIn under Rick Curti.
All right, Steve, take it away.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at SteveB7SFG. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn at Steve Balestrieri. And I write for PatsFans.com. We do a podcast there. I do another one called One Patriot Place for E2G Sports. And I'm a national security columnist for 1945.com. So if you ever want to read about politics and military affairs, you'll find me there.
All right. Well, John Shearer.
Yeah, you can find me Sideline Sports Network, Sports Arena, which is on the Sideline Sports Network, Monday and Wednesday nights, 10 Eastern Time. Sideline Sports Show, Tuesday nights, 8:30. DBNA Television, you can find Sports Arena and Sideline Sports Show on there. Quantum Star, Connect to Your City, you can find us on those channels. Go look them up. Blue Hawks 13 on Twitter, Blue Hawks 13 NFL on Instagram, and then John Shearer on LinkedIn. And I think that's everywhere you can find me. If there's more, I probably forgot. Oh, Fox Sports 1340 AM. I freelance write for them as well. Can't forget about that.
Well, don't worry, John. You know what? To me, there'll be plenty of opportunities. If you forgot anything, you're going to get your cracks at it. I've had the good fortune of working with those people at Sideline Sports, and I'll tell you, some great people there. John, obviously, was the first person I worked with. Jake Malik is another great one. Eric Wilson. Looking forward to getting to know JB Ellis and the rest of his crew. They've been kind enough to go ahead and bring me on their show, and I believe that, to me, it's just unbelievable the work that they put into their production, and I'm so impressed and envious of what they do, and I'm just trying to do the best I can to bring this platform to that level. For a lot of you folks that want to follow us, now this broadcast is simulcast, okay? You can subscribe to the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel at no charge, okay? You can find us there. You can hear the audio version of it on Spreaker, Spotify, Apple, Google, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can find it on the website, www.southfloridatribune.com. You can find me on Twitter at Tribune South. And a special shout out to Candy Ebling Morganroth, who does an unbelievable job putting it all together. Without her, to me, it would be very difficult to do what we do here. But, again, we encourage you to check out the website and our shows, and we're looking forward to providing you with a lot of good entertainment and information as time goes on. I'm very pleased with the progress. But you know what? I'm only as good as the people I had to work around me. And I got 3 dynamos tonight. And everybody that works in our system, Mel Farr Jr. is another one that I really like to have on. And there's other ones worth noting too. But these are the people that have had the belief in what we're trying to do. And I'll tell you one thing, you know what? I'm only as good as my supporting cast, and I'm proud of the supporting cast that I have. So meanwhile, guys, great first act tonight. And we look forward to doing this more often. So on behalf of Steve Balestrieri, Rick Curti, and John Shearer, my name is Scott Morganroth, the Motor City Madmouth. Thank you for joining us on this edition of the Sports Exchange. We want to tell everybody that while they're relaxing the mask thing a little bit, please go out there and be safe. We are in the midst of a pandemic, and let's not lose sight of the humility that a lot of people have died because of this. So meanwhile, everybody, thank you very much for joining us on this edition of the Sports Exchange. Good night.
Good night.